what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to part two. We are working with some pretty dirty, thin samples, and we've been using Studio Rack and building custom drum chains to process these and make them more professional, more impactful, and really just stand out in the mix. So let's go ahead. I want to play back just as a refresher for those of you who may have missed part one. I'll put a link to it. But we processed the kick, the snare, and the clap. So let me disable those chains and play that back dry, and then I'll turn them on so that you can hear what we did. And this is with all our chains. All right, let's dive right in and keep it moving. Today, we're going to be doing the hi-hats as well as those Vox chops. We've also got an old breakbeat and a loop that we're going to be using for texture. All right, so let's jump into the hi-hats first. So I'm going to go ahead and once again, we're using Studio Rack as a single insert on all of these different tracks to create our drum chains. And let's see, let me solo this hi-hat and let's hear what's going on. Okay, it is a very noisy hi-hat. I can hear, almost like a buzzing sound, a humming sound there. So let's see if we can get rid of it with a gate. So we'll put the audio track on here and use the gate section once again. So there we go. I just adjusted the release a little bit, so we're still getting the tail of that hi-hat. We don't want it to be too snappy, but getting rid of that noise, that is going to make a big difference without that hum playing, because it was noticeable even in just the drum mix overall. So then let's see if there's any low-end stuff. Obviously, we don't want that in our hi-hat tracks 99% of the time. So let's just do a low-end roll off our filter here, and maybe at about, I don't know, 400 or 500. Let's go right there about 1K. And then I may do a roll off on the other side with this guy just to get rid of anything super harsh. Although we may want to do something a little bit more precise. So let's wait on that one. We'll use just the audio track EQ as a utility for the low end. And then now let's do a little bit of compression. I don't think we're going to need a lot on this hi-hat. There's just really not a big need to kind of control the dynamics of this. But let's put on maybe the H comp again. And we're going to slow the attack down just so that we get all that transient. That's just going to make it a little bit more snappy. So next, let's put on something interesting in terms of pitch, maybe a doubler, just to do something cool with this. So I'm going to turn off these the other voices here and just turn on one of these. And just kind of put it over on the right side of the stereo field. Give it a decent delay size, and then let's maybe try and octave it down. So that gives you more of that trap hi-hat kind of feel. And then finally, we'll put a reverb on here, and then we'll layer it in the context of the mix. So some of you may be wondering, why I'm doing a lot of this with the drum soloed. In this case, we're really doing a lot of sound design and being creative with the mixing. So this is kind of a separate process than when we're going to be, balancing it and leveling it with the rest of our drums. So I really want to be focused on the very minor details of the sound itself first with the mixing process, and then go into, creating balance and making sure that all the elements are working together. So we'll have a little bit more brightness on the reverb. And then finally, we will put on the L1 Plus, which we talked about in the last video, where this is just a great way to control the ceiling and maximize the sound so you can get super loud drum elements without squashing the rest of the mix. So let me slide that. Let's put the reverb last. Okay, so now let's level it out. All right, so that's with, is without. All right, so for our second hi-hat, I think this one's pretty similar in terms of input level, and it's just sort of like a fast trap hi-hat, speed hat fill. So yeah, it's going to be subtle. Let's just go ahead and we'll just drag our Studio Rack chain that we built the first hi-hat out of over here to hi-hat 2, and then we'll make some adjustments. And then maybe we'll octave this one, not down, but just detune it and pan it a little bit, just to make it a little bit more noticeable there. All right, moving on to the Vox chop here. This is just something kind of melodic, but we're going to wash it out with some big reverb. Let's put on our Studio Rack, and I'll let you hear that dry. So let's try a little bit of compression on this just to keep everything consistent. It sounds like the phrases are already compressed pretty well, but just to keep it in check. That should be fine. And then let's do some EQ. I'm going to pull out the Q10, which is going to give us a little bit more control and just a lot more precision in terms of our cuts here. And we're going to roll off a lot of the lows. Let's go down here to 10 and we'll do a high frequency roll off for this guy. And we're going to pull that back. And we really just want more of a low mid kind of sound here. We don't want that phrase to kind of overtake the rest of the drums. We'll leave that there for now, and then we're just going to wash it out once again. Let's pull up our trusty Renaissance reverb, and let's try a different algorithm. Maybe the church for this one, and something pretty big. 5 seconds. That's pretty cool. All right, let's hear that in the context of the mix. So it's pretty quiet, so let's throw on a maximizer here. So you're going to notice that I'm doing a lot of leveling with maximizers today using the threshold. Now you got to be careful with this. Those of you who are not as comfortable, yanking that threshold down can be damaging to your sounds, the dynamics of things. I'm just using that as a safer way to really get these things loud and then feeding them into an output ceiling measured by true peak. It's just an easy way to really make sure that you're getting a lot out of it, but I'm not having to push my faders in a way that's going to, clip or, overly exert the levels into our stereo bus. So just something to keep in mind. You can do either way if you want to, put that back and then adjust it on the fader. I'm giving myself more room in terms of gain staging to be able to move this fader around some. So let's turn the reverb down a bit. And I'm going to roll off some more lows. And then maybe we'll do a bit of a delay before feeding that reverb just to give it some more spread here. So we'll put the H delay on there. do a fourth. Let's try ping pong as well. So pretty cool. It's a little loud. All right, let's hear what we can do with this little beatbox. This is just something I recorded right before I started the tutorial. So let's go ahead and do something really quick with this. I'm going to drag over Studio Rack, and let's just do a reset. And then I'm going to use Audio Track, and let's gate a little bit. And let's try some distortion on this. I think that would be cool. Let's try maybe the guitar rack stuff. I like the tool rack here. You can utilize all the different components within guitar, and there's a lot of different effects pedals and things. But let's just try maybe fuzz, or what's the other one here? The buzz, one of these. And I'm going to move this into parallel. So with parallel, I can mix these together. It's just like parallel compression or anything else. You've got that parallel signal. So just to give it a little flavor, and then let's maybe do some flanging, possibly. And I need to take some lows off of this. We're gonna, and then let's try some reverb on here. Maybe something interesting like a gated reverb would be cool. So we've got a little bit of harshness where I'm going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a de-esser after that distortion. I think the distortion kind of brought that out a little bit. So let's put the de-esser on there, and then let's just use one of these presets for now. Maybe a male sh might work well for that cha kind of sound. That'll work for now. I'm going to turn this back in the mix. Again, we just want this for texture. All right, and then we've got this old breakbeat finally, and this loop texture. And we're going to bust these together. We're going to do these on the same Studio Rack instance. So let's just route this, and let's just go loop textures, and then I'm going to drag, or actually we'll just open up a Studio Rack here, and let's see, first things first, we're going to once again just use Audio Track and roll off the lows. I like to layer a lot of my loops under here to accentuate the rhythm, but the first thing that you're going to notice when you do that a lot of times is these loops have low end, they have kicks, they might even have bass lines, things that are already there. And you don't want that interfering with your kick and your bass that are in the actual groove. So we're going to roll off a lot of that. So that's pretty cool. And let's put a delay on it just to keep the rhythm going. We'll EQ that a bit. So we'll keep those simple, and then let's just mix that into taste. Pretty cool. A lot of cool chains going. So I'm going to deactivate everything that we did, and let's just hear what all we were able to accomplish with all these custom drum chains. Here it is dry. All right, and then let's activate everything we did today. All right, y'all. So we added a lot of character to these samples, a lot of impact. We cleaned them up. We gave them some brightness. They're definitely cutting through the mix in a way that sounds more professional. And to be honest with you, these are some of the most problematic, thinnest, noisiest samples that I could find that still had the aesthetic that I was looking for in terms of the beat, but it really gave us a lot to work with and build these chains with. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you picked up some things and really just realized that no matter what samples you're using, if you're able to utilize all these processes that we talk a lot about on the channel in the mixing process, you can get a ton of mileage out of any of your drum sounds, and you can create these really cool chains utilizing the Studio Rack utility. If you're interested in checking out some more of these chains, I just released Divine Mixing Drum Chains, which is 25 exclusive presets for Studio Rack that process drums in a similar way to what we just did. But if you learned anything in the video, please like, subscribe, and consider sharing. Also hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when I put up new videos. Look forward to seeing y'all on the next one. We'll talk to you soon.